Hello and welcome to another episode of the Kitchen Table Podcast. Today, we are really excited to have Chief Shawn from Indianapolis Fire Department. So before we say hello to him, I'm going to go through this rap sheet of his years of service and everything. So he was with Battalion 4 on A shift on the east side since 2007-2016, has a total of 33 years in the fire service, was an adjunct constructor with Ivy Tech since 2001, and that was about for 20 years. Also owner of Burning Passion Fire Training Systems, founder and past president of the Indy Metro Fools from 2001 to 2008, development team leader for To Hell and Back, presentation on burn injuries for firefighters, instructor for Flashover for FDIC and Indy for 25 years, and also owner and operator of the Double Barrel Woodworx, which is absolutely fantastic. That axe over there is what he made for us, which is beautiful, and also that helmet hanging up on the wall, which is amazing. So, sir, thank you so much for coming on our podcast and talking with us today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm super excited. So, the hosts here, myself, Matt, and then Ryan. Ryan, you want to give a little shout out to about our soap?
Give a shout out to Flame Decon. We recently teamed up with them, and we created a Ronan Strong soap. So if you go to flamedecon.com, you can get yours today. I think we're only doing it for a month, so it's limited time.
Awesome.
So go check it out.
And that little square thing where it says Ronan, that's the
it.
soap.
It's the soap.
That's the soap. All right, awesome. So today's topic is going to be on leadership and, I knew I was going to say it, monitoring, mentoring. So real quick on that, you give a class on interviews for firefighters to take, or guys that are aspiring to be firefighters. And I just want to let you know, we've talked about it before, but I want everybody else to know, I attended your class before I went through the process of the department I work at now, and I ended up getting hired after I took that class. So I think it helped.
Glad it worked.
Yeah. So if you guys are interested,
not a Ponzi scheme.
Ponzi scheme, I'd say it was, but afterwards I still got a job, so I don't care.
No, it's a confidence. I think that whole class is about building self-confidence, and it's not. It is the right thing to say, but people are going to read you for who you are, not what you can memorize.
Yes, and I can't memorize much.
That's true.
But I love the class, so I love that you put it on. You taught a lot of basic stuff that guys are they need to hear that stuff. And there's a lot of other good gems in there as well. I don't want to give everything away. You do the class still, correct?
Well, we just did it a couple of months ago, actually in February. The gem is your interview needs to be from your heart, through your mouth, through your eyes. And the selling point of that is that you have 20 minutes to sell for 20 years. And if it's from your heart, again, to me, the selling point is to get to somebody's the mind on why they should hire you. When I stand up as an interviewee, I need to know that I just smoked my interview because they bought into me, not what I had to say and the benchmarks and the anchors that I hit. And it's all about separating you from somebody else. If it takes you 28 times to get hired somewhere, and I've spoken to some people that it took 1 or 2 times, but on average, it's a couple of dozen times. You have to ask yourself what failed, but you don't know all of the politics that go into XYZ Fire Department either. You don't know the nepotism, we got to hire this, the favors, and all that. When you stand up from that interview, you have to leave no doubt that you were the best candidate when you left the room. And that's really the focus. If it's from the heart, you cannot go wrong. You can't take my heart. You can take my words, but you can't take my heart. And that's what we want to portray in that class. And it's been fairly successful.
Good.
I guess. I mean, it worked for you.
It worked for me. It worked for me.
Maybe you were the politic guy.
I might be. I do enjoy politics, good politics. So with today's topic on mentorship, monitoring, and leadership, there's been things that I've noticed in my short career so far in the fire service. Of course, the people watching at home, that leadership is huge. There's guys out there that naturally can lead. For those guys that can't really naturally lead, what are some things, what are some little, we'll say the word again, gems of information that we can give that are just some of the basics of leadership for some guys? I understand it's kind of a loaded question, but things that you've noticed that are qualities for a good leader.
Leadership, to me, it's either leading or managing it's a choice. If you choose to lead people, you have to have followers. If you don't have that, you lead nobody. And leader is a kind of a loaded word where in order to lead, you want to get buy-in from someone's followership, if you will. To me, the best leader is servant leadership. In my position, we have 290 on a shift per day. I work for 289 people. If someone calls, I drop what I'm doing. My job is to serve others. That is what I do. And 95% of it is people driven. We do 5% runs. People get hired for the runs, but when you become an officer, we've got some officer development going on right now, and I love being part of that because you get to share knowledge that has helped and has hindered you in the past. To me, I have a saying, what makes a good officer, what makes a bad officer, what are those traits? When you're working for that, what you consider the bad officer is that it's bad at the time, but it teaches you what you don't want to be when you become one. When you successfully pass the test, when you jump through the hoops, do the program, they throw you some bars, and now you're going to lead one or several people, depending on how many's on your crew. What keeps those people at that firehouse? What keeps them from leaving your firehouse? And it's all about the buy-in of that. If you're going to come up with what you need to walk into a firehouse with, if you're going to be there 1 day or 1 year, the 4 solid things are you're going to continue to, and they're going to want to say, what do you expect of us? Professionalism, be nice, and 4 big things. You want to be safe, you want to be moral, be ethical, and be legal. Past that are what your quirky, what are your subjective needs for that day for you to get through, like who catches the plug, what nozzle you use, all of that tactical stuff that we could get into, but it's how you want to buy in for that particular day. If you get assigned, my job is to hit the high achievers in your group, and it's also to bring up what you would consider the weakest link. Everybody has worth, so don't take it wrong that you have a weak link in a firehouse. The weak link is your subjective grab on what you think needs to be fixed on that employee. In a quick 5 minutes, that's what I would say is the needs of being a company officer right off the bat. If you didn't know anything else, I passed the test, I took the classes, I jumped the hoops. Those 4 things, you're going to be a solid officer right off the get-go.
And that's a lot of great information with that, and a great reason of asking that question and even explaining it just like that. There's a lot of guys on departments that watch this that don't have it's a big city aspect or big city foundation for their own department. It's small. There's a guy we know, Brent Rockwell, became an officer at a very young age at a small department, and I've asked him tons of questions while he was being an officer. I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, dude, you're a lieutenant now.
Right.
Dude, you're my age and you're a lieutenant. And like, what are your thoughts on that? And it was the things of, it's like, there's really no direction. There's no handbook. We talked about that last night at the Beneath the Smoke meetup. There's no handbook that they give you and say, this is a good officer right here. These are all the decisions you'll make. And that's something that gets to be very tough and difficult, especially when you're in a smaller department.
I honestly think you can take more leadership tidbits from movies and apply them to our job, such as what are some of if you were to consider a leadership movie, what would they be? Remember the Titans, We Were Soldiers.
We Were Soldiers is what I was going to say.
Olympus Has Fallen. Mm-hmm. Literally, I don't watch much TV, but I watched Olympus Has Fallen 2 or 3 nights ago. What I get out of that is the loyalty that I can't remember the guy's name. Doesn't matter. He protected the president, not related to the president, but his loyalty to protect that man is something that you need to pick up of an officer, and that loyalty goes both ways. Loyalty to follow the rules, loyalty to take care of your people, and that's a whole nother topic, is that he or she takes care of us. Define what taking care is. Is it crippling you by allowing you to not be ethical, moral, safe, or legal? Or is it actually covering you that you don't want anyone to know that you have a weak link in your firehouse. And that's a sign of weakness of an officer not being able to cover that up and not being able to fix that. We talked earlier about kicking a can down the road. The system fails if I am dealt with someone that's not up to your standards. Those standards are broken into two categories, objective and subjective. Objective is something I can obtain based on a policy and procedure or a want of the department. Like my drive is to protect my chief and my patch and my fire department. That's my drive based on my actions and our actions of the A shift. That's what I'm in control of. It still covers over to B and C shift because we have a lot of overtime and trades and workforce and things like that. So holistically, I protect my fire department based on what I say, how I act, what my movements are, my mannerisms. All of that's being watched. And I try to do the best I can, but if I don't make 4 or 5 mistakes a day, it's a great day. So the issue about being a good leader is owning them. I've made some terrible mistakes and will probably make more. Not probably, going to make more. I won't get anyone killed on purpose. Won't get anybody hurt on purpose. Those are personal choices to do things in a risky business. Mm-hmm. It's our job to go home each morning. That is my goal. I don't want to go to some family and say, we tried everything we could. But we're talking about leadership. So to me, if you tighten up what happens in a firehouse 80, 90% of the time, the fire ground, you're going to have that loyalty that we talked about on the fire ground. Because I gave you an order on the fire ground, it's not tested, it's not questioned because they trust you. And that's to me, that's where that loyalty and that leadership comes from. Leader is being a good follower. And another way to be a good leader is to have mentors in your life that you want to emulate, both good and bad. I've worked for officers who I did not want to become, so I picked up on their trait and tried not to do that. Ask for constructive criticism. Ask for a higher standard. Ask your people. And a question came up yesterday in class of, well, if the department only has this amount of, like a C, we're in a mediocre society. Department has a C average, meaning the test is at a 70 or 80%. It's not a 90 or 100. How can I get more out of an individual in a firehouse on a daily basis than what the department asks for? And it's the buy-in on how good you want to be. And that's called pride. Pride in my book. I'm going to take a beating, but I'm kind of partial to A shift. A shift is where my love is. But it's still my department, my patch that I'm going to protect. But I'm loyal to my A shift people. My job is to take care of each individual that works on our shift. My job is that if one of those 289 people leave, why did they want to leave the A shift? Was it monetary? Was it for a promotion? Was it for a Kelly day? Was it to work with the people they like to work with? I'm good with that. But if it's something that we did on our shift as an officer, as a battalion chief, or as a division chief or shift commander like I am, then I take heed in fixing that so that the next person would not want to leave. I want to build a team of one, and the one is the A shift of the likes. Not going to happen overnight. Not going to be 100%. There's people that probably don't care for me because of how I look and my demeanor and being aggressive. That aggressive is passion, flat out. And if you don't know me, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get 100% passion 100% of the time. Not 110 because you can't give 100% or 110%. But I'll give you what I have until it's gone. And when it's gone, it's time to retire.
You mentioned something really interesting, which was you take what from the bad officers and the good officers. Growing up, I know I've told Ryan this 1,000 times. My mom always taught me you can learn something from everybody.
Everything is a teachable moment.
Exactly.
Moment.
You either learn what to do or what not to do. I've worked for officers that I learned what to do, definitely learned of what not to do. And that's something that when you mention that, it's kind of cool to hear somebody, especially in your position, mention something like that, to where if any guy, I think anybody can be a good leader. I truly believe that. I've seen guys come
It's
from
a choice.
It is exactly a choice. I've seen guys come from just the bottom of the barrel, and then they decide that one day I'm going to change, and it's a tough decision to make because you're going to be held accountable.
I started in the volunteer service 35 years ago, and was told you're never going to amount to anything in this business because of your attitude and your drive, and we don't, we're kind of relaxed here, and you're too on edge. And again, that's when I found out that I had the passion to do this for a living, and I pursued it, in Florida and in Indiana. And this is where I got hired. I was lucky to get hired on 3 departments in one day. I started on the east side of Indy at Warren. And because of politics and the merge, we became Indianapolis. I honestly did not want to be part of that because I was a training geek. And at that time, I didn't feel that the training was where it needed to be. Today, totally different story. I'm 100% buy-in. I'm truly humbled for the opportunities that I have been given and have been asked to do. I'm living a dream, and it's a dream in the best job in the world, and what I think is one of the best cities in the world. Indianapolis is a great place to work. It just happens to be, the city of Indianapolis. And I was talking earlier. A friend of mine came to ride with me. We were doing dailies and getting things done at night. We went to get fuel in the buggy, and he said, "Do you ever think a kid from Wilkinson, Indiana, would actually run 1/3 of the fire department?" And it kind of hit me, and almost, teared up, thinking, that's true. That if a plane knurled into Lucas Oil, it's going to be a goat, a huge run. But from a fire department standpoint, initially, I'm going to be asked to run that, and do I have a game plan to run an incident like that? And the answer is yes, I have a game plan, but it's going to have to be altered because so many variables are going to come into play. But that's the things that I think about high rise, about large commercial buildings burning. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to be part of those large incidents, having 3 doubles going at a time, a city block going at a time, 2 or 3 floors of fire going at a time. I didn't cause those, but I have trained myself based on a drive of passion to be able to manage those with great people on our shift. I mean, my job, if you've watched Remember the Titans, when Bertier gets paralyzed in the movie and they win the state championship and he's sitting in his bed doing this is what I feel like in front of a fire. If I don't take over every fire. I have trusted battalion chiefs that if the fire's still dynamic, then my job is to take that over. That's what they're paying me to do, is manage. We use the term leadership here, but to manage those type of incidents. If our chiefs or our rideouts are doing a good job, my job then is to coach and mentor and stamp their hard drive on a run that they can then use for the next fire they go on. If I take it over, they don't stamp their hard drive. They don't classify that as a win or a lose, so that the next one they go on, and if I'm off or on Kelly Day or somebody else is in my spot, they don't have any recourse to go back to try to solve the problem. And that's what we want to try to do, is coach and mentor both in the firehouse with people and on incidents, those types of runs. And that's really, if you ask a kid what makes a good boss, what makes a good officer, and they always lean towards the fire side, the incident side. They're held firemen, they're belly down a hallway. I get that. I do get that. But if you are strong in a firehouse about leading and about getting them to follow you, they'll follow you anywhere. And if you're taking a beating, bellying down a hallway, they're going to be right there in front of you. And you're going to be kind of nudging them on. And our job is to nudge. You talked about nuggets or gems, or I would call them nudges. You want to nudge people in the right direction, what you feel is ethical, moral, safe, and legal. And that is the nutshell for me being a good officer.
What helps you make those types of decisions? What, not only just training, but there's got to be something more to it than just training on how to be a good officer. What inside morally tells you what could be a good decision, what could be a bad decision?
Failing in the past. If you have failed in the past and be able to own what you have failed at, that is what makes you stronger. And again, we keep using this word leadership. To me, leadership, there's two things. When you get promoted, you are a recognized, tested officer for XYZ Fire Department. You are a respected officer based on what people perceive of you. So I do a class called Non-Typical. I have it tattooed on me. I believe it so much. Non-typical in my world is doing the right thing. It's being legal, ethical, moral, and safe all the time. If you walk that, you inscribe in somebody's head to get the buy-in that's when you go to that firehouse, that's what's expected. So when I walk in, I set a level of expectation. It was asked yesterday, what should be my expectation for one day only in a firehouse? If I'm going to be an officer in a volunteer department, which it's a whole different world where you show up one night a month or a week, you check the trucks, they throw you a pager, tell you to take the number one vehicle in the country, which is a rollover accident of a tanker, and want to know why we're killing people. It's kind of a bad system where we need to train and get them familiar and stamp their hard drive and anyway, how do I be an officer once a month versus 12 times a year or 10 times a day? Like in our business, we have companies that run 18, 20 runs a day in some firehouses. They're an officer 24/7. How they get to that point is setting expectations and then correcting that behavior when it's not met. Meaning I lay out the expectations when I become an officer. But it's the buddy to boss thing. I'll drink coffee and tea and beer, whatever you guys do on your day off. But when I have to do my job, you set the expectation. And when you cross that line, I'm going to hold you accountable by coaching, mentoring, counseling. Those and not discipline right off the bat. I got my butt blistered growing up. But what hurt me the worst was my parents saying, Shawn, you disappoint me. And that kills me. And that's really what I do now. I mean, I can get in your pocket. I can discipline you. Discipline is way down the road, depending on what your drive is. You're going to be a better officer knowing that you're going to get coached. Every moment is, and I'm a training geek, every moment's a teachable moment, meaning we're going to talk about it. We're going to learn from it. We're going to do it again. We're going to do it one more time. Then we're going to start getting serious. Mm-hmm. Depending on the offense, though, and there's not a lot of offenses that we're talking about. We're talking about changing behavior, how I speak to each other, how I approach you, how we treat each other in the firehouse. That goes a long way. That's one thing that gets in a firehouse is how we interact with each other, which is driven by personality. Personalities, and several personality tests online that you can take. DISC is the one we're familiar with. You find out what kind of personality you are, and that's how you're going to react to others. If I'm a D, which I'm not a D, if I were a D, which is a drill instructor, and it's my way or the highway, and if you can picture a drill instructor looking over you in the Marine Corps, that's how they're going to treat everybody. Because in that system, they're changing your behavior to follow what they do for one common goal, and that's to protect the country. In our business, we need to get that buy-in. And we're the ones that need to change in our business. I mean, we talk about millennials all the time. Millennials don't need to change. We need to change to meet the millennials' needs in order to get that buy-in, to get them to follow you. So in whatever 15, 20 minutes, that's my roundabout way saying to be non-typical is to do the right thing. In order to know that you're walking with those traits, I push a mirror syndrome. Again, me driving here today, teaching yesterday, I'm asking feedback from people that are becoming tested officers. How was my material? How was it presented? How can I be better the next time I do it? This is asking a 5, 6, 7 year person on the job who has worth, who has an opinion, who is a student that I can gain having 30 plus years in here, getting better each day. If I get to the point where I think, nope, I'm good as I'm going to get, it's time to leave, because every day is a teachable day.
Do you think that that's a prideful moment right there, to put your pride aside, to step back and say, I could be doing better in your position as a chief? I mean, I would assume I'm not an officer. I'm not a chief. I've never been. I don't know if I ever will be, but
you're just held to a higher standard.
You're just held to a higher standard. That's correct. And
you expect to do things right more often.
Okay. So yeah, what question I was getting to at was, Do you think a lot of guys have trouble or struggle to put their pride and humility
Yes.
to the side?
Yeah, including,
showing humility.
including me.
I'm at fault for that too.
We all
I'm at
are.
fault for
That's
that.
a human nature of when if I held the mirror, and this is what I was getting. If I held the mirror up, and if I say, I have character and integrity and honesty and trust and humility and all that, do you actually see that?
I mean, do I see it on a mirror? No.
No. Do you see? If I held the mirror and
I'm
you
struggling right now.
But if I said, am I humble? Do you see? And you wouldn't know that if we just met an hour ago.
Yeah.
But if we work together on a daily basis, I want an informal, up the chain response from my crew to say, look, tell me how I'm doing.
Okay.
If you want to work here, tell me how I'm doing. You do possess these traits. You need to work on this. And it's hard for an informal one. It's not hard for an informal leader to tell their boss they suck at what they do, because that's what they always do. That what I need is constructive criticism from and I'm not going to say superiors, from my coworkers, because if I say you all are superiors, I'm not better than you. I just chose to take a test before you did, and they picked me to be an officer, a manager on this department. My job is to make sure we all walk the same walk to protect the patch, the chief, and the city. And that's what we want to do on a daily basis. Most people think they're doing that without a performance evaluation, without an informal tail step. We say we clean the rig. We're cleaning the rig and we're waiting on the towels to dry. We're cleaning the bay floors, and you sit down and say, hey, how are your kids? How's this going on? Hey, what do you think I need to do? Did on this run, did we do this well? Even if I'm the boss, that's an informal leadership. I've done that my entire career. We got to the point as an engine crew and pull up on something, look at each other, know what you're going to do based on drilling, never say a word. We never have to say a word. And they point at a 2.5 or they point at an 1 3/4, and you nod, go to work. That's what a true crew should be. When the bell's not going off, when there's a decision to be made or people to treat fairly, you go on an EMS run, which is 8 out of 10 we go on. When you're treating people fairly and they look at you and you nod or nod the other way, to me that's the same concept of your coaching and mentoring with informal communication. Is that you may get that type thing, and then you go back and talk about something like that leads to me getting better, which is helping you get better by coaching. Both win. Your answer or your question was, do I have to put the pride away? If you're willing to ask for informal leadership from the people, and when you get put in a leadership role on a fire department, they're going to say, you're going to lead these people. That's fine. But in turn, what needs to come is that informal leadership of what they need. What are their needs? Like if I say, these are my expectations for the day, my first question is, what do you expect of me? If I'm going to come in here and work in your firehouse, what do you expect from me as your boss? A boss first or a manager, and then that leadership stuff is going to come how I react to what your needs are. And if I meet those, that respect level goes up. If not, these bars become plungers, and they won't respect you.
Wow, that's a really good answer.
Yeah.
Well, that was all I had for today. No, I'm just kidding. That's all I had for today.
I'm telling you, I don't like crowds, but you get on a topic about what I'm passionate about, whether it's right or wrong.
I love it.
I'm just sitting here taking it all in because this is.
You can join too, Ryan.
Again,
This is incredible.
it is.
This is great.
A way. It is not the way. It's not a city's way. It's not the fire department. It's Shawn Grass's way. And until I will continue to do what I do because of mentors in the past that worked for them, and I'm going to fail, and I'm going to fail again, and then I'm going to pass it on. Sitting with you guys today is me 15, 20 years ago. If I started the Fools, I was hell-bent on bringing an organization to town because I was told I couldn't do it. Or it's not going to work. It's going to fail. Fair is not an option. I've been playing sports all my life. Second sucks.
Yeah.
Why play if you can't win? Are we going to get knocked down? Somebody has to get the green ribbon. I'm not going to pass the green ribbons out because that's the culture that you want to instill. If everybody got a green ribbon, oh, Johnny got a green ribbon.
There's no incentive to do better.
Correct.
Right. Absolutely.
So what's the teachable moment? Yeah, I competed. We got Johnny and Jane out there competing, but at some point you're going to have to step their game up. And if they get green ribbons all through high school, what are they going to get if they go to college? What are they going to get in their job? What if I helicopter over all of these kids? If I got a troubled employee, trouble meaning he doesn't meet again, there's objective, which is a goal to be met, and subjective is my opinion. Where we get in a fire, well, 99's got that slug that works over there. I don't want to work with that slug. First of all, why is he a slug? Why is that officer allowing that slug to be in the firehouse? And how do I, in my position, fix that slug to bring up that person in our system? Because that person does have worth. And they do have value. The problem is at some point, some underlying issue has caused their good attitude to become that slug.
Yep.
My job to bring that up. And how do I do that? Coach, counseling, mentor. Be their friend. Listen to them. Find out what's pushing it. Get them help. Do we have an EAP program? They need a pastor. They just need to go out and find a friend. They may be with the wrong crew. And that's what's good about our system. If you don't like who you work with, you go work with people you like, which is a whole different ball game. Why do people surround themselves with likes? It's because they either want to strive, they want to coast, or they just want to be under the radar, which are all acceptable. If you meet the ethical, moral, safe, and legal things, you're meeting the department standards, you're gonna be at whatever level you want to compete at. So that's my...
It's really interesting that I like the thought process behind it. That's what I really like on those decisions. It's when you talked about the fools in the beginning, just because you were told that it couldn't be done.
Well, they just said the only reason I said that is they said, well, some people have tried in the past, and it really didn't get off the ground. I was fortunate enough to be with a group to learn from a group of people of likes. These were people that started in Florida, started the Fools in Florida. It was a great chapter in my life, is that I got to be around people of likes. Another chapter of people. They love to teach. They love to work hard, play hard. But when the bell goes off, no other group of professionals that you're going to find, just like other groups that you're involved in. And you're going to be with those groups because they succeed. And it was a succession group where they do great things. They still do great things. I just life got in the way and I went a different direction, and they have great leaders that are running that program now. So they just had the same likes. I was fortunate enough to go out west and teach and be around that group of people, and it to me, when I go to a conference or like FDIC that comes here, best conference in the world, I think. One, I teach for them, but two, it is the greatest instructors in the world. You know why they're great? They're great because they have the same passion we do. They may have a little twist on they think we're hillbillies, the way we talk, and I'm proud to be a hillbilly, but their English accent or their New England accent or their West Coast or their Nashville, wherever you're from, they bring that twist, but that passion still is there. When they come to town, that's my church. My professional church is when they come, I get to be around them for a short period of time, get rejuvenated, and I decide that this profession is still what I want to do, and I'll continue to do it. This is all I know, and woodworking. Well,
some amazing woodworking too.
That's my side hustle. That's my get off path of the interstate when this doesn't work. So, but this is still it.
Yeah. Oh no, it's 11 o'clock.
It's the tornado siren.
Time to eat.
I should have had some snacks. Usually we have donuts, but wife's still at work, so she can't go get them.
I don't know if I've answered any of your questions. So
you haven't. No, no, you have. You've answered them. I'm pretty sure you've answered them. I'm pretty sure.
And went above and beyond.
It's awesome to see. It's awesome to kind of just kind of nudge a little question and then you just take it farther and farther. Which I'm just racking my brain on which question I kind of want to ask first and what direction that I'd like to go with that. But I still want to relate this to the guys who don't have good leaders The guys who are still in the beginning of their career and are just prideful. Don't show too much humility. When I started, there was a lot of guys that didn't show humility and were very prideful. And it made it very difficult to want to learn around those guys, because if you didn't know something, you were made fun of.
Yeah.
And then you're at that point, you're just like, yeah, screw it. I'm kind of done asking questions, because these guys are going to make fun of me over this basic stuff that, when I learned in Fire 1 and 2, it's a little bit different there. But when I come to the street, you expect me to know every single thing that I have no idea that I should know about, and I'm expected to know that. So to me, it comes down to a humility aspect. When I get a new guy coming to work on our crew, granted, we're not Indianapolis by any means. We're not having the run load. We're not having the fires. But I do have something.
We have 43 houses. Not everybody gets those types of runs.
Right.
Correct.
If you have one run a year, one a day, or one a month, that one is the one. Mm-hmm. And where do you want to be? That's the humility of that. If you've got prideful officers, who is their superior that's holding them accountable, saying, hey, Johnny wants to learn. Mm-hmm. I think we need to get Johnny in the learning circle. Meaning, drop some of your ego, and when Johnny is called upon, does Johnny know everything that you expect him to know? If not, that's your failure. Is that, you can be prideful because I chose to get that way. The other question is, someone needs to hold Johnny's hand for a minute and say, mm-hmm. this is what our officers need at this point in time at this house, who do have a big ego. I can pump your ego all day long, but I'm not going to learn anything except what you need.
And being a good barn boss. I'm not an officer at that right now, but I feel like it's kind of a responsibility of the next senior guy that's just underneath the officer. You can tell me if you agree or disagree.
That is what we've talked about the last 2 days, is the senior sub. Mm-hmm. You can call them what you want. Senior firefighter. In our system, they're a sub until they go regular. The senior firefighter is the informal leader. If I had a room of 50 officers, if I said, do you all think you're actually leading your firehouse? They're all going to say yes, because they are a legitimate, recognized officer in the firehouse. When in turn, I would guess 25% of those are being ran by that informal leader the way that they want, which is that sub-tested officer mm-hmm. in that firehouse that wants to run it the way they want. So when you bid in or move to their firehouse to be their officer, they're probably going to try to change you to their way because they are the D in that disc, or mm-hmm. they're the informal leader, meaning it's going to be my way. And I know people who are backstep 30-year firefighters that have ran a firehouse mm-hmm. with a captain and 3 lieutenants or 2 lieutenants, and ran all 3 shifts for years because they were the wheel that got the most grease. Yeah. Whether it be right or wrong, they're still achieving the drive of that firehouse, meeting the needs of the department, and never taking the test. Mm-hmm. They chose not to take the BS because mm-hmm. there's a lot of things that you're going to get that you don't want to deal with. I choose to deal with those because it's people driven. And you mentioned earlier, who is my replacement and how good will they be? Mm-hmm. My job is to replace somebody better than what I have even thought about. And again, I have no gauge on what I do other than asking my bosses, is there anything I can do to get better? To tell me what I'm, if I'm always taught what I'm failing at, not what I'm good at, then I only learn that, hey, why should I make a decision if I'm going to fail every time? So let me hear, and I'm not somebody that needs to hear. I need to know what I'm not doing right, because I can work on what I am doing right constantly. Tell me what I need to fix, and I'm going to fix it. And I'm going to fix it now, because I have no tolerance on something that just procrastinates and put off and put off and put off. Although we are creatures of habit. If someone said, I need to get a deadline of this done on the 19th, when do we do it? The night of the 18th?
Yeah. Turn it in on the 19th.
That's how it was in high school.
And when we are like that, so it's kind of hypocritical to say we're not procrastinators, but when it comes to me personally, if I have an issue, I would like to know that I'm going to fix it now. But you need to tell me which can hurt me. It's mm-hmm. honest. It feels like, I'm getting stabbed in the heart right now because you're telling me I own this. I'm unapproachable. I've been told I'm unapproachable. Far from the truth. I'd give you anything I got. But because of my demeanor, my drive, and big bald headed guy coming at you like, I'm not out to get you. I'm out to help you. You're going to replace me at one time.
Well, you look like you just got out of prison, to be honest.
I haven't even showed you my tats yet.
I opened the door and I'm like, I'm about to get mugged. Please, sir, don't take anything. I don't have much.
I need that flat bill hat, that stereotype.
You put a stocking cap all the way down. All
Well,
right,
I got one. I just didn't wear it.
Yeah, that's when you mentioned, when you talked about the informal, formal leaders. It's something that I was always taught as being a good barn boss. Like Matt Davidson is a guy that I always thought of being a good barn
Great
boss.
guy.
When I love Matt. He's insane. He's nuts.
Great guy.
Best. He's the best.
He was that
He
guy.
was part of his recruit class when he came through.
really?
Great guy.
Oh man, he's nuts.
His go-getiveness is something else.
Oh, it's incredible. Isn't it?
Well,
Hillbilly
he has said that he'd come on here
Yeah.
and talk, and I'm just like, really? It'll be wild. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Like
He
he's
did
gonna,
ask,
he's
he's
gonna
like,
eat the
"Can I
microphone.
cuss?"
He's
Sorry,
gonna, yeah. He'll I really hope that he can do that here shortly. But he was to me a guy that was a really good barn boss. He was a guy that guys would kind of, when he was black helmet, guys would gravitate towards him. And it's not just because he was coming out walking out like I'm the barn boss. It was the
It's that presence.
the presence
Yeah.
he had. Great word. It's the presence he had in the firehouse. That's something that I should kind of strive to do. But I mean, right now the guy that we got, it's just me, my captain, and then our backstepper, who's they're all very smart guys. So I kind of I try to go towards the smarter people, and I usually I'm going to them a lot for a lot of questions, just because they're great. But I'm trying to step up to be that barn boss to where it's like, hey, let's go ahead and take care of this. And for guys that don't understand what we're talking about with being the barn boss, being a barn boss is not being the officer. It's being the guy that's stepping up to make sure your officer doesn't have to come to you and be like, hey, get this done for the day. It's stuff like, if your officer comes to you and says, hey, we've got this and this, like, hey, we've already knocked out 2 of those things. It takes the stress off of your officer for that
You
day.
make that boss look good.
You
on a
want to
daily
make your
basis.
boss look good. Even on a fire ground, you want to make your boss look good. I remember there was a couple fires that I've had that for the previous officer we had, if we had a newer guy, I made sure that we were going to do extra things, of course, within the vicinity of our officer. Like, hey, this is what we're looking for in this room. Like, hey, we're going to be doing some overhaul. As my officer is our captain at the time, he was our previous captain. He's doing his thing, being an officer, and I'm taking my guy aside and I'm pointing at things like, hey, this is the things I've noticed that we can also do better. This is something that, hey, when you're pulling the ceiling down, try to pull in this little area. It might help out. If you've ever done, work in drywall, the drywall is up in sections. If you find a crease, I mean, it's pretty hard to find a crease, but you can find that and pull them down both sides. You're knocking down twice the drywall.
Work hard.
Work smarter. No, yeah. And
We
I
like
love to
to
work
work
hard.
hard, right?
I love to work hard.
It's work smart, not hard.
Yes, and it's just stuff like that. If you can, and it's not only on fire scenes; it's at the firehouse too. It's out,
But it's right here too.
yeah,
What you just mentioned about those officers that were prideful, is it seems, again, I'm not an HR guy, I'm not a psychologist, I'm far from just above a bag of hammers. It seems that has taught you've learned from something you didn't want to become to be everything that you do is a teachable moment. And that's kind of what I am. To a point where you teach them 1 or 2 times, they then get it. Then you're going to watch that person when the sub comes in, they're doing it too, you win. Winning means you have fulfilled your greater drive, which is, it's not all about us here. It's about what we give to others, and that makes that boss that much better, meaning all of their people are tight. They're tight in their skills, so that when called upon, that officer does not have to say a word. They turn to that informal leader, they look at you, you nod, you take them under your wing, you do it, then they do it again, then they do it. It's like someone getting promoted out of my battalion. If say I lose 30 firefighters to be lieutenants, I can say, well, I got to start all over and do 30 more. But I've achieved 30, hopefully helped 30 to get promoted. And then I have 30 more going to move in. So those 30 then do it to 2 people that got promoted. I do it to those 30. They carry that message in that fire. And it's like a almost like that Ponzi scheme you say I ran on that interview class. But it's a positive, it's a positive end to this sitting in the bed, watching good things happen. You're spreading the gospel, the fire service gospel on what you think is ethical, moral, safe, and legal. It all comes back to that. And it's walking that. When you walk in, you know exactly what that boss expects. Toe the line. Are we going to have fun? You're damn right we're going to have fun. Mm-hmm. But when the bell goes off, those 4 things come to, and it's 3 a.m, 3 p.m. You know you're going to do it right. You know you're going to do it safe. You know you're going to do morally. And you just do it. And it's because of repetition each and every day the same way. And that's what we should be doing. That manager, we keep talking about leadership, but that manager does that consistently each and every day. Consistency is consistent and fair is what people that want to be led want. Mm-hmm. They want to be taught the same way each and every time, but they want to be led. Meaning they want to have direct, most do. But the ones who want to do it will follow you, and they will migrate to you around the kitchen table, like what you guys are doing here. They migrate to who they want to listen to so that they can then share that nugget later down the line. I learned more going to Ivy Tech from 20-year firefighters who I've worked with before and now retired. I've learned more from them than reading any book because it's how they solved it. Did it work? Yep, check. Did it not work? Yep, check. And I throw those means to an end together, and that's how I have formulated some of what I decide on what I think is a decision on fire grounds. And I trust our people 100%, but it's also a teachable moment not to say you're doing it all wrong. Unless I lay down what the expectation is on that fire ground or in that firehouse, mm-hmm. I can't say you're doing it wrong because you don't know what wrong is. Mm-hmm. So you have to, it's like telling a kid, don't touch the hot pan. What are they going to do?
I'm going to touch that hot pan. Yeah.
Then you're going to get burnt and you're going to say, I told you so. We do nothing more than parenting as being an officer. Now, a leader does more than that because he teaches you not to touch the hot pan again. But the manager, we step right on that line in that sand all day long about what we can get rid of. Maybe you shouldn't be here. If you're going to toe that line, if you did what you did in a firehouse at home, you would not work here. Corporate America would fire you.
It's absolutely true.
I'm writing down something real quick. I was going to wait till you were done, and I was going to ask you, but since you're done, sorry. So, respect goes up. I've seen in officers that step in there, a good leader that I've noticed when your officer steps into let's say it's his first shift, he comes in, he's the captain or the lieutenant or sergeant in some places, and he starts cleaning toilets.
Where's your toilet bowl cleaner?
Yes.
First question. And not how you do your discipline. Where's your toilet bowl cleaner?
Exactly. And when that happened to me, I actually got kind of upset about it because that's my job. And he comes in and he cleans the toilets. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, cleaning the toilets. I'm like, Captain, you don't touch that stuff. Like, we'll get that stuff. He goes, nope, I'm helping. I'm like that is something to me that really stuck to me. And
lead by example.
Exactly. Leading by example. And I've worked for other officers, and I've also seen other officers, and I've heard of other officers doing similar things and doing non-similar things. Doing the thing of just pointing the finger. Doing the thing of, hey, I'm going to step in there. I'm going to go do it. And I've met people, and I've talked to guys, and I've listened and listened to guys talk about it, and I've read some stuff about it. And it changes the atmosphere for that entire day. There's things where, I'm going to go a little bit for just a couple minutes. There's things where if you have an officer that's coming in and it's just he's had a bad mood, it changes the motivation for the day. It changes the entire outlook. And if it starts in the morning, there's been times where I've been that guy with a bad mood.
Did you take your meds? That's the first question. And you're going to know within 10 seconds.
Exactly. Have you eaten?
Have you drank 10 Mountain Dews yet?
I don't drink Mountain Dews.
I can give you 2 names from 10 or 15 years ago, a crew I work with, they would not speak to me until 10 or 10:30, and they knew that I had not had enough Mountain Dew yet, which I don't drink anymore. In my business now, my day starts about 6:30 talking to people, and if I would not be able to work in that environment now without having more interaction like that. And I can do that for an hour, but I still have to communicate with people.
Yeah.
Back then, I would not see them until 10 or 10:30, and they knew. And I have changed. I knew that was a negative on my part, and I could again. And I respect those guys 100%. They are now officers in other on other apparatus on other shifts. Great people, but they're going to tell you have you had your Mountain Dew yet?
Yep. My officer knows if I'm a little. I mean, I'll be a little grouchy. He's like, and he'll come at me like, "Have you eaten yet?" Snickers. Yeah, go get you a Snickers. You're not you and your.
Well, the joke now is from a guy. Have you had this in your donuts yet?
Have you had that? And it could be something simple as that for everybody in the morning. There's also the thing of the benefit of the doubt. I'm real big on giving people the benefit of the doubt.
First one's on you, second one's on me.
Correct. And to me, a lot of that stuff, it comes down to like, he made a bad decision, or you know what, he didn't make a good impression when he worked with us the first day, but the next day, let's give him a shot. Let's give him another shot. And I've been big on that. I've also been bit in the ass on that too. And it's something of communicating with them like, hey, this is what we expect. This is what we like.
Now, I would jump in there and say, remember when we talk about the decisions that we make, it's either objectional or subjectional. Objectionally, when you say that someone made a bad decision, is it something you didn't like or something that didn't meet policy? And that, to me, that's totally different of he or she making that decision was well within the what's expected on a fire ground, what's expected of your chief. If your battalion comes to you and said, this is what I want done on 123 Main Street, reportable residence fire, this is what we're going to do. Either you have a policy on that or you have their expectation. Their expectations is subjectional. So getting back to, they made a bad decision on that. Is that my subjective thought process in that, or did they actually not meet the expectations of the patch or the fire department? If that's the case, their boss has failed by not fixing that if it happens again.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Does it happen all the time? Absolutely. Because I don't micromanage. If I don't see that, if I see that on a run, I can talk about, hey, your truck companies need to be doing this. Don't open that until we get water on the fire. On and on and on. But those are objective traits that I can obtain. But also the subjectivity is this: go back to day one. This is what I laid out. This is what's expected. And every fire department in the country, if they have 3 shifts, they have 3 personalities run in that department within one book of policy and procedures. It's how they tweak and how they perceive that policy should be upheld. Meaning, even we as following the policy walk right on the line of your mustache is too long, but pick one. My mustache, and I get, that's been a topic. It's a paramilitary organization. You look professional. When you look professional, you act professional. I get that. Fire service history, I'm also a traditional guy. My mustache being long doesn't make I'm any more stupider in the way I do business. But I get it's all about looks. Just same with tats. I mean, when I have a chance to cover, I'm going to cover them because it's more professional. If I'm away from there, my tats. I get that. And I'm not afraid to show, look, I'm non-typical, period. And I don't want to be tread on, period.
I love it. I need a flag like that. Put that on my front yard.
I know a guy.
You know a guy? I'm the only one on my street with an American flag. Thank you. It's
This guy.
What do you think when you think of a good fireman, good firefighter, firewoman, to be politically correct? When you think of that, what makes a good firefighter? What comes to your mind?
Their heart, their drive, their passion. Are they here? It's kind of when we did Ivy Tech. We did almost 900 students at Ivy Tech in a 1 and 2 program, and we wanted to do what we called a fire suppression class. They think out of high school. When I went to Ivy Tech, it was more incumbents and less high school because the program just started. It has shifted. We've got this shift of the only really time that people that are incumbents go to school is because of promotion. They need that for an extra point in the promotional process. Not everybody. A lot want to be educated, but majority, they get on the fire department. It's all I need. I don't have to get this. And then they go, I think I'm going to go through the promotion process. They look at their progression that they need for the department. They say, oh, I've got to have this X amount of credits, or I got to do this. Then they enroll. What we did was we tried to put kids that everybody had to go through suppression so that they taste the 16 skills that need to happen. It's basically the Firefighter 1 program. Mm-hmm. They taste that, they get the taste, and if they apply to the Firefighter 1 and 2 program, this is what their direction needs to be. Makes a whole better class on their drive is this is what I want to do for a living. They think at 19 years old. Age is a big deal when it comes to maturity. And you're going to find out who's mature and who needs to. We hire some, 30-year people that think they want to do this and not mature at all. Which none of us are mature. None of us are where we need to be doing this job because we act like 15-year-olds most of the time.
Yeah,
and
Matt and I definitely do.
Yeah.
The joke
and it makes it fun. It makes it fun for the shift.
An
too.
officer runs the largest daycare in the city at the fire department, and that's the joke. But it's only on about 10% of those adolescents. Mm-hmm. The majority of the people have what you're asking about. They have the drive. They have the passion. They have the loyalty to the service itself. That brotherhood and sisterhood, it does exist. It's just not as vocal as what it used to be.
Right.
We used to be able to call and say, hey, I'm going to rip the roof off my house. We had 15 people there. All you got to do is buy them beer to get them to come there. It's changed a little bit. Families have come into play, personal needs, entitlement, all that comes in. But it does still exist.
Yeah.
It's just not, maybe I don't see it as much anymore, but it's still there. I mean,
yeah, we had a pretty good...
Look at Lieutenant Dillman.
Yeah.
How many people, great man. I don't know him that well, but what I do know, I'd follow him anywhere. He's taught me a lot about what he's been through, which lets me teach about perseverance. Look at how many people, I showed up at his thing, I don't know him that well, but I will follow somebody who has the passion that he has. Mm-hmm. As busy as he was from what I understand, he was the guy. He was the guy. And that's who I want to follow. That's who I want to migrate to. That's who I want to learn from. I mowed for a while to put our kids through college. Mm-hmm. I mowed a prominent person in Indianapolis. And he played sports in high school, went on to coach in the NBA. I mowed his yard for about 10 years. My kids hated it because I would always sit and listen to his stories on his back porch. They would have to mow the yard to get it done, but
that's why they hated it. They
Dad's not doing anything.
It wasn't
beer
a fun yard
talking
to
to
mow,
this guy.
but I wanted to hear his stories.
Yeah.
And I lived for that mowing day hoping he would be home. Mm-hmm. That's who I want to migrate to. A person that you're asking about what do they have, they want to migrate, and eventually they will find what our job is about, and they will start migrating to those people of likes. Because you get to float around a firehouse, you're going to find out who you want to work for, yes, who you don't want to work for, who you want to go, where your target is. You're going to find the ones, and I could drop 10 names who I would want to listen to right now on our job. Because I'm going to learn from them. Even in my spot, I'm going to learn from them. And my spot is nothing more than I manage all day long. I manage to make sure we make the patch, the chief, and the city look good. That's what we want to do. I guess having the passion and that's why I say your interview, and it starts from the day you think you want to do this. If your interview comes from your heart, that's behavior. The way you walk, the way you talk, the way you carry yourself, that's who I want. And we can teach. We hire butcher, baker, and candlestick makers, right? Mm-hmm. When I was 40, we went to the first week of Marine Corps boot camp in San Diego to see if we taught recruit classes, and I went through those skills for 1 week. Absolutely loved it. But I got to leave in 1 week. You know, I didn't have to do what they did, but I witnessed a transformation of a bunch of people that come in. They break you down and they build you as one. If I got one out of a recruit class that loved their job, I'm winning. What time do you get to work? What time do you have to be at work?
Well,
6 a.m.
They say 6 a.m., but you always show up earlier.
Early is on time, and on time is
correct.
I want to catch a fire on C shift, and I want to catch a fire on B shift.
Mm-hmm.
I want to catch a fire, so I show up. I'm in charge of the shift. I try to get there 6:30, 6:45 every day. That's kind of our relief time. That's another trait to have. Do you love coming to work? I can tell you that at some point in my time, again, we talked about underlying issue. I had something underlying in my career, and I quit. I probably had 6-7 years on. I quit. I walked in, put my badge on the chief's desk, and again, that's where I learned that something underlying is causing that change in behavior. And I use a personal failure in my system, took some time off, got regrouped, talked to some people about it, got me back on track. When it comes to, and I just spoke about it yesterday, about complacency, which has nothing to do with your question, but a life-changing experience will change your life forever to love our job or hate our job. Mm-hmm. I was a lieutenant. We were on the east side. We've gone to an alarm run 4 or 5 times in a row. 4 o'clock in the morning when water's fluctuating, people are getting up, going to work. We get this alarm, 2525 North Shadeland. It's Dark Armies, 1 million square foot building under roof. We go. I show up. It's a modified box because we'd been there so many times in shorts and flip-flops. Is that what we teach?
No.
The alarm is caused by something. Something is we need to mitigate. That changed my entire life. They keyed it was a riser 28. They keyed the door open, and it burnt the hair on my calf. Shouldn't be telling that, but I learned by my mistakes. When I became in charge of training for Warren, that's the first thing we trained on is complacency. We stretched. My hard drive was not. We went to house fires all the time, not industrial fires. We trained on hose boxes. We changed our nozzles. We changed our whole attitude based on me making a mistake. If I made it, I know everybody else could have the potential to make that, and I didn't want them to get an unpaid vacation like I got. That taught me how to change, and it changed my entire look on the fire service. One run.
When you say the mistake you made on that, there's a lot of stuff for the newer generation coming in. Oh, yeah, we're already on that. Oh, I thought we were on the other camera. Sorry, I made a mistake. But the newer generation coming in, I'll hear stuff from guys. They just don't know. They just don't understand. You explained that earlier. And then you said something that actually kind of tossed me back a little bit. You said, but we need to change as that older generation. And that was something I've always wanted to say it to somebody whenever they say, oh, this new generation, they're just not mature enough. They're just not good enough. I'm like, well, who raised this generation? And I'm not putting a blame on anybody. I put a lot of blame on myself for a lot of things because I can change and I can do better and I can do worse and I can do whatever I want. But I always want to be better. But there's that thing of when guys tell you this is how we do it. This newer generation is the generation, but why? But why? But why do we do it like that?
But you asked that.
I asked that. Yeah, of course
I asked that. Because we want to be educated, right? Mm-hmm. The reason why I said we need to change is that because we've always done it that way. Mm-hmm. We've always done it that way. This is what worked. This is what tradition is. And I get all that. But fires are changing. We're changing. Fire loads are changing. Equipment's changing. Hoses changing. All of it's changing. We need to change. I can't. When our class of 20 was hired in a recruit class, we were beat over the heads with 2x4s. Get out! Get out! Get out! Whack! 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 What happens if you did that today?
Well, it's not a true 2x4 either. Huh? It wasn't a true 2x4 now either.
This is a true 2x4 with a handle built in it. Yeah. That Don Abbott hit us. He's going to deny it if he hears this, but it happened. But what it teaches, taught us discipline. Mm-hmm. That he's teaching us for a reason. We can't do that. So my delivery needs to be catered differently to today's generation, so that they learn just like we learned a way, which was worked. We just need to teach it a different way now. And that's what I have learned too. You want to teach as a company officer, you want to bring those people up, but it has to be a different way. It has to be a different delivery. There are people who deliver messages on a fire ground that aren't respected. If they would just change I believe in their message. It's how they deliver it. And they want to know why their retirement party's in a phone booth.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's because that's how much they're a respected officer.
I mean, that's the truth.
It is.
But they're not, I'm sorry, they are a recognized officer, but they're not respected based on how they treat people.
Yep.
And most of them don't recognize that until someone points it out to them. And then there's a rift between whoever points it out. Just get over it. You know, if they want an opinion, how do people perceive me? I got some choice words that they think you are, but they don't respect you. And if they don't respect you, how do I get that back? I can't take away that I'm recognized that I passed the test, but they walk there every day, every third day. They walk like, look at me, I'm so and so, and I want you to do this. And persuasive does not work on a fire ground. When you're taking an order, persuasiveness does work, because that's my experience talking to you, saying this is how it's going to be. It has to be autocratic. But if you back that up and say, when we have this scenario, this is what I expect, this is how we're going to do it, we're going to do it together, and you buy into that fire ground would never happen. You would never see that side of me, because you learned that. But that's on me. That's why I say we have to change. We meaning the 25 year firefighter in our service of the group that we're hiring that asks the why. They get their phone out. I would say they would do a better interview texting it to me than telling me.
I would agree with that.
Yes.
And that's the type of mentor. I have a 2-year-old grandson who can work the phone better than I can, reprogram a TV, all of that. That's just how they're brought up. We got dirty outside. We played till dark. We played baseball, football, you name it. We were outside. It's this now. Mm-hmm. That's who we need to cater. We need to cater a message to. If I put it on a phone, if I text you the program we're going to teach today, at least you've seen it, right? Now I'm going to show you how to do it. You show me how to do it. We go do it together. I'll tell you how you did. That we test it 5 different ways, and about 6 or 7 is when someone actually picks the skill up. And that's become what we call repetition.
And you know what would be really cool when you mentioned that, and you kind of did the video game thing? If they had a legit, actually really good firefighting video game, like for PlayStation or PC or Xbox, I would be a masterclass firefighter, because I would just love that.
When Shawn Lawrence did through the People's Burn Foundation, got a considerable amount of money to do this To Hell and Back program, which was based on the painters that were burnt on the interstate way back when.
Yep.
We used that as the focal point and said, look, how can we use this in the fire service? If a firefighter is burnt, no matter if you're a butcher, baker, candlestick maker, firefighter, this is what you're going to go through. The moral of the story is wear your gear. Even though you wear your gear properly, it will minimize how much you get burnt. It can still kill you. But your situational awareness will save you as well, possibly. But by wearing your gear, you mentioned the computer game. Our phase 2 of that game, or phase 2 or 3, we made a computer game. At the time, it was just using a mouse. But the moral of the story is I can't fight fire in the game without wearing all of my PPE. And we did that, and it exists today in To Hell and Back. But so we actually catered to... and at that time, texting, I don't know what year it was, 90s, mid-90s. It wasn't what it is today, but still, we say back in the day, but it exists on the disc. And you had to put on your PPE to fight the car fire and the dumpster fire and the house fire and the building fire. It would not let you move forward without putting your PPE on.
That is pretty cool. That, when you mentioned the painters, that lawsuit's still going on today. And that's amazing. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it was years ago.
Oh, it was. It was. I was talking to a friend of mine. She used to work as one of the lawyers. She was what were they called? She's like an assistant to one of the lawyers, or whatever. And she was telling me that just a couple months ago that's still going on. But so when you wake up in the morning, what are some of the thoughts that run through your head before you're going into shift? I know it can be really just about anything, but what are some of your goals for that day? when you're going into shift?
The goal of that day is we go home the next day. That is the goal. But in my position, it never turns off. You know, it's 24/7 of managing people and getting emails. They're coming back or they're getting marked off. So it's more people moving. People have issues. They make a run. I need to listen. And again, if they're going to listen, if it's a particular issue about the fire department job, I ask, have you spoke to your officer first? And if they say, yeah, they want to talk to me, that's great, as long as their officer knows. I don't want to circumvent the chain of command. My other thoughts are, do I have my A game? We've had some incidents where stuff didn't go right. We burnt buildings. I burned a Texas Roadhouse down.
Oh, not Texas Roadhouse.
I burn it down. I was in charge, therefore I take the hit on it. 1403 North Shaden, 1405, whatever the address is.
You remember that too.
I do. I remember the whole thing. And I asked Chief Walker, who I would do anything for. He was my boss at the time. I said, boss, what else would you have done? He said, all I ask you is that you save that sign out front. As a joke. And we put a line on it, save the sign, because that's all we could say. But
save that.
It was 10 below zero. We laid 6,000 feet of 5-inch in order to get water on this, and just Murphy's Law, on and on. Anyway, I don't even know what we're talking about. But
when you wake up in the morning,
I want to make sure that I have my A game. Yeah. We've had some incidents in my history that didn't go so well. I know that everybody, when they come to the firehouse, they don't go, I think I'm going to bring a C average today. I need to make sure in my position that it's not a C average, because our people are expecting more. Am I going to have a bad day? Yeah. Stuff's going on at home. Issues are happening. Whatever. I'm getting ready for this woodworking show. What is my priority? I have to say, look in the mirror and say, Shawn, what is my priority? My priority is the Indianapolis Fire Department on the A shift. When I go in, that is my focus. And in downtime, I can do other things as long as I meet my objectives. But our people's safety is number one. Our staffing is where it needs to be. Everybody's treated fairly. I mean, every day you have to say, what did I do yesterday? It was a failure. And how can I correct it today? That's really, honestly, what I think.
How do you prepare yourself for your shift?
A bag of donuts and a Monster.
Chocolate or powder?
Man.
Ask Chris Hemphill.
Is it really a bag of donuts every?
A bag of donut holes and a Monster.
Oh man,
we're creatures of habit, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's what I do.
So if someone wants to make you happy, they show up and they're like,
I don't ask.
Get you grass a
Well,
bag of donut holes.
If they drop a Monster off, it'll be drink later.
All right, it'll be. Yeah.
The Monsters are key.
What's your flavor? What's your favorite flavor?
These white ones, whatever they are.
The zero sugar.
Yeah, sure. You guys hear that? My Monster Zero Sugar.
Have you had the watermelon one yet?
You know, I took a test somewhere where it said bribery. I can't do that. So
it's not bribery. It's just bringing a Monster.
It's a gift.
It's a gift.
It's
a gift.
I usually am self-sufficient. Self-sufficient. What do I do to prepare?
Mm-hmm.
I do the same routine every day. I make sure that I try to get there at the same time each day, and if not, I call the guy I'm relieving and tell him, hey, the traffic's bad, or I push snow during when it was snowing. I would call and say, hey, I'm going to be 5 or 10 minutes late. It'll be closer to 7, or I'll call another chief to cover for that, get some AL time. I know a guy who can probably give me some AL time since I'm the guy who does it. Mm-hmm. Don't abuse. Again, I go back to what I preach, which is today's going to be morally good, it's going to be ethically good, it's going to be safe, and it's going to be legal. And those are, if I don't walk those, then I can't help others, correct their habits either. I say habits, their beliefs. And I think a lot of what we do, when you talk about leadership, it's belief. It's not, hey, I read this in a book and I did this and I learned this experience. It is all about what I believe a leader should be. And I can't tell you if I'm that guy or not. I know that I get paid to manage 1/3 of the fire department on a daily basis, and I try to do it well, and I ask for feedback. And if it becomes that people say I'm a leader, then I think I'm doing my job. I mean, I like to make plaques, but I'm not big on recognition other than, hey, you guys did a fantastic job. And that's done in public. And if you're going to get into somebody, it's done in private. Mm-hmm. If you do it, you lose all kinds of credibility if you demean them in person. I can't say that it won't happen because you're ruling with emotion and not logical thought process. But a good boss will pull you aside and then correct you in private. Mm-hmm. But you're going to praise as much as you can in public. We do such amazing work on a daily basis, especially going through this COVID stuff. Very minimally, we've had X amount of people that were involved in COVID because they're doing what they should be doing, wearing their PPE and protecting themselves and their crews, and officers are doing what they need to be doing to keep their people safe, because that's what their drive is. Your people are going home. My people are going home. My boss's people are going home. We're going home. Sadly, 100 to 110 per year don't go home. How do we fix that for the future? If it happened, it's happened, 92 was the last time, the fire fatalities that happened in Indy and they they recognize it on St. Patty's Day, walking the parade past the athletic club. And that's something that has taught Indianapolis, the fire department of Indianapolis, so many skills that we can get better on, that we did get better on, that we need to improve on still. To me, it doesn't take a fatality to do that. It takes to prohibit a fatality from happening by training and drilling and practicing. And I understand Dobson wrote a book, Bad Things Happen to Good People. It does happen because it's the calling of a greater power. But we can control what's in our lane. And the runs we go on, like Gordon Graham talks about, those high risk, low probability runs are the ones who aren't going to happen all the time. But when they do, there's honestly no run that we can't prepare for. So I have a book that makes me look like a rock star of cheat sheets. That if this happens, I flick it here. If this happens, I flick it here. Is everything going to go as planned? Probably not. But I have a plan that fixes that. Okay, if this happens, and it's a mental algorithm. And I've been, I don't say blessed. I mean, I got in the business to go to fires, but because human things are going to happen and fires are going to happen, I've been blessed to go on some significant runs that went really well because people did the right thing. And that just shows that when people prepare, I mean, Michael Jordan just didn't pick up a basketball and start playing. I mean, he's a phenom, but we're not as good as what those pro athletes are, so we have to repetitiously do those drills, forcing doors, stretching lines, nozzles forward. Pick a topic that somebody has taught, and go learn from them. Make yourself better. You become, that we talked about Rogue, Van Oppen. I'm a huge Van Oppen fan. Never met the guy, but what he talks about, I have thought for 20 years. I don't put it on paper. He talks about being a rogue. The rogue, or being non-typical, in my book, is doing the right thing. They're going to make fun of you for doing the right thing, for being a fool, for wanting to train. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. And that is a reactive response to, you don't want me to know what you don't know. And that's what I have learned. When someone lashes out at you, say, you don't have to do that, kid. We're never going to do that. You're going to be prepared. They won't. It goes back to those prideful officers that they're only as good as what they think they are. If they were really good, they would bring you up to their level and not be afraid to share as much information. Again, work for an officer who would teach us enough to be good, but not enough to make him look bad. And that drove me to teach everybody in the crew to be better than me. Who's going to catch your seat when you're gone? Who's going to catch their seat, and who's going to catch their seat? And that's what progression is I'm only as good as the next person up. I say man, it's man and woman, but it's the next person up. That's what leadership is. It's leaving no stone unturned. And I always ask, what nozzle do you use, and what do you pump it at? What nozzle pressure is your nozzle? If you're on the end of a nozzle because I want to go to fires and you don't know what it's being pumped at, you need to retrain yourself.
Yep.
I have a widget on my apparatus that I don't know what that widget does or how it's used, I'm failing myself and I'm failing the crew and I'm failing the city that I protect. Mm-hmm. You should know everything, ins and outs, and how to use it 3 ways. But that's, again, being a rogue and being a geek. Call me a geek. But when it's hitting the fan, who do you want to come? You or that prideful person?
We talked about that last night. I like to say just getting it creative. Like just
Yeah.
become creative on
Outside the box.
Outside the box. There's many ways to use one tool.
Again,
there's many ways.
You're right, and that those become objective. Those would fit in subjective. Mm-hmm. The objective is this is how we made it. This is what the intent was. But look at so many sites across the internet on you want to do X, and they're coming up with 10 ways to use a Halligan, 10 ways to use a set of irons, 10 ways to do this, or coming up with homemade tools that are used for 3 other things, and now we're using them to our advantage. We're working smart, not hard. And there's all like Vin Intersearch. Jimmy Walsh's group is doing that on Vin Intersearch. Never met the guy, don't sell for him. Great, it's a great truck deal that they do, and it's sharing information to the rest of the world. And that's what you guys are doing. You're sharing the thought process of X amount of people who at some point in time, I was that officer you're talking about from ABC Fire Department who took 4 runs a year. And they give me 4 people under my command, I say, whatever your verbiage is. How do I get, at that level, how do I get them to just come to the station and check their rig out? How do I get them to come to this fish fry? How do I get them to buy into what our department belief is? Again, the buy-in is what I think the leadership part is, as long as it's legal, ethical, safe, and moral. I mean, it always gets back to those.
Yes.
This is, if you want to lead. And I'm not saying you have to have a cult, because they talk about being a rogue is it's a cult-like thought. They call the Fools a cult. You know, they're starting their own cult like they did in Waco. But no, we're not either. It's people of likes who love to get better, who love to train, and love to have a good time after they've worked hard too. That's the group, and there's more to that. But initially, that's the drive. Pick a group. Your group is the group you work with. Do you have the best company in the city? The answer is yes.
Yeah, I do.
Prove it. Do you prove it every day? That's what I would ask. If you prove it every day, if you're called upon, and I know what battalions, I know what companies that when you have a fire, you wish they were there, because you know there is no stopping them. And it's sad that not every company is like that, but my drive is to raise the bar on what that company level expectation is, driven by that officer, driven by the battalion, who's driven by me. Mm-hmm. And that's the buy-in. We will do this on this run because, simple fact, you've learned about modern fire behavior. The modern fire behavior push is what started 5-6 years ago through the International Fire, the IFSFI group. Big names across the city but across the country who have seen more in their career than we will ever see in the next 10 years. They are basically saying the way we have fought fires in the past can be changed and more safer, and they're pushing those thought processes on. For example, getting water on the fire. Why do I want water on a fire before I pop a roof? Basically, instead of leaving the front door open, I'm making a new front door on the roof, mm-hmm. and I'm causing that fire. Adding more. You teach a kid not to run, we're running. Basically, opening up the roof before. And I get vent and ye shall live. I get all that, but it should be coordinated. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All driven towards safety, our safety. Now, you get in a city where we've got more faster engine companies getting water on the fire than going to the roof. Yeah, they're relieving pressure. And they're not doing that coordinated attack, especially in our city, unless you run with a double company that's very aggressive and get to the roof and pop it. Or our engine company, you're holding them back like a pack of dogs, wait and say, no, go! And then you let them go and then get at that coordinated attack.
Yeah.
it's hard to hold back go-getters. And they're wanting to get in and get it done. But everybody, all 26 people have to be in the hallway or the bathroom. And that becomes unsafe. So there's a give and take on being aggressive. Having discipline is the key. Holistic discipline. If I have discipline with me coming in the morning, you ask one of my traits, I try to have somewhat of I don't know everything. I'd be the first to tell you I'm a bag of hammers. But I probably know someone in my phone that I can call and get you an answer within 12 to 24 hours. I want to have show the discipline enough that whatever is put in front of us today, we are going to solve. Period. When we go to the fire and it is breaking loose, I want to have command presence on there to say, we're going to work this out. I didn't cause it, but I'm being paid. We're going to solve this. Chief Walker always said, save my skyline. And till I quit the fire department, I will save Chief Walker's skyline. And I respect him 100%. And I've always gone back to those mentors that give me those nuggets. I mean, he had 48 years on. Wow. That's 8 years more than what I've been alive. And he's been on the job that long. There's got to be something to be learned from a gentleman like that. And I tried as much as I could to pick his brain.
I was trying to do the math there.
That's 40, I think. I'm no mathematician.
That's just said I'm a bag of hammers.
Something that kind of just provoked kind of a statement or question in my own head was, are lazy or poor officers somewhat needed for the guys that are under them to be better? That's not I literally just jotted it down. It's not really well worded, but do you think that, I don't really like having around a lazy or poor officer. I don't think anybody does. But do you think that sometimes that it's a little bit needed so that way the guys under them can grow and see how to become better?
No. Because holistically the system or the department fails. Mm-hmm. Because if I were the chief of a three house department or a volunteer department, if I have 4 pieces of apparatus that have 4 officers, or I've got 43 firehouses that have 43 bosses in there, why would I want a weak one? Because it shows that we're not meeting the level of the taxpayer. Mm-hmm. Taxpayer's not paying for a lazy boss. Now, the justification is if I've spent 35 years of being in the busiest house in the city, and I have a couple years left and I want to slow down, that doesn't mean I'm lazy. Subjectively, their boss, their whoever they report to, has to recognize that, hey, there is a level that we need to obtain per day. And it's your subjectional level on, are they lazy or not? To me, mm-hmm. saying lazy is, like you're not worth hauling to a fire is subjectional. And you're not worth hauling to a fire. That person has worth, but then I, in the end, need to give you a prescription or a behavior change profile in order to get you where I think you need to be. Therefore, if I just say you're not worth the ground you stand on, which that's, again, it doesn't fall into ethical, moral, safe, or that type thing, but we sometimes act with the front part of our head, with our big boy voice or our vocal voice, and say stuff like that. But I really mean, how do I get you where I need to be? This is how I look on my ship. Do they exist? Yes. Do they need to get better? Yes. How do I do that? I need to lean on the battalions to say, I know they don't do the runs like they used to be, but at least maintain a minimal standard. And if the plus in our system is that if you don't like working there, you can bid somewhere else based on seniority. Some departments aren't like that. They're appointed and they're stuck. Mm-hmm. So do I really need an office? If I work for a lazy, the subjection word is, I work for a lazy boss. That doesn't mean I have to be lazy. I'm going to go out and achieve. Again, working for a bad officer is only enough to make him look good, not enough to make him look bad. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go out and achieve what I want that may make him or her feel bad because I'm achieving more than what they have obtained. But I need to get better. And I don't want to come to work thinking, God, I'm going to work for so-and-so today. They're not a go-getter. They're not this house. They're not going to do all these runs. But yet I need to make a positive day today. So what am I going to do? I'm going to study on myself. I'm going to listen to your guys' thing. I'm going to watch this video. I'm going to watch YouTube. Heaven forbid we get a run. I get to perform, to the best of my ability, what I've trained on. All of those things you turn a negative, just like in the interview class. What's a negative trait you possess? I want to take that negative trait, turn it to a positive. Same in a bad environment. I'm working for what I consider a lazy or a bad boss. I'm going to turn that to a positive today, and I'm going to keep my mind right, and I'm not going to get in their mindset and let my boss deal with them being lazy. If I just went to my boss and said, hey, I think so-and-so's lazy, did you go to your boss and tell him he's lazy first? Because probably no one's told him they're lazy. Mm-hmm. We just recognize that and choose not to fix it. That's why I'm kicking the can down the road, because it takes effort to do that. So if you've got X amount of officers that you need to try to do that on a daily basis, it'll wear you out. But it's one at a time. That's would be my goal, is to try to fix, I don't say one problem, is one behavior change at a time. Starting with mine first. Again, I've got the mirror that says, when I wake up, you said, what do I do in a day? What did I screw up yesterday? And what won't I screw up today? That's how I start. And trying to, wake up. But, if it's I love coming to work still, knowing that you may be handed a sandwich. I still love coming to work because I took that responsibility on, and I'm in a position now where I want to do this and say, look, you handed me this. I solved it to the best of my ability. That made me stronger. So what else you got? I mean, what else you got? That it? And that was a kind of a negative thing when we merged. We had a good training program at Warren. When we merged, when we did the first training, it was 3 simple skills, and all of us from Warren said, "Is that it? That's all we got to do? That's it? That's it?" I thought, shit, we were doing that 10 years ago. But I don't know.
Who have been some of your most influential mentors or leaders that throughout your career that you've always looked to and thought of during calls, during things going on at the firehouse, or in the position that you have now as a managerial aspect?
My parents, my high school football coach, who was successful at the state level, and he's in the Hall of Fame, taught me about hard work and persistence, and don't give up. Chief Steve Dixon, retired out of Battalion 5. Don Abbott, who hired me, taught me a ton. Paul Bailey, Chief Walker here, and honestly, some of the chiefs that I work with today I've probably learned more from them than they. I mean, I don't think I teach anything. I just share what I've learned. But I've learned a lot from them. So I would have to say that my current chiefs, Chief Walker, because I worked for him, 5 years before he retired, and he actually asked me to at least submit a resume for my spot. I didn't want to do what I'm doing. I wanted to be comfortable, only have 5-6 firehouses, 40-some people instead of 390. I didn't want those headaches. But when somebody persistently 3 or 4 times said, would you please put in for this? Would you put in for that? Would you at least consider it? I'm not going to disrespect him. And I chose to. I prayed about it, decided. 5 minutes before it had to be in, I went click and sent it, procrastinating, thinking, I can only say no. Interviewed for the spot. The chief called and said, you want the spot? I said, Chief, hell if I know. He said, you have 30 minutes. Click. He called back. I said, I guess I'll take it. You guess. Yes, sir. I'll take it. So here we are. But I would say I mean, there's a lot. Tommy, Captain Roberts, Tommy Deal, a bunch of people that I've learned from. Jim McCormick, even officers today, Rick Van Sant. Mm-hmm. Great people that do what we do. And I've learned, and they don't have to have more time than me. They can currently be on here, and I've learned from them. But there's so many, and you take a little bit from here and a little bit from here, a little bit from here, and you kind of mold that together. And again, I don't know if what I do is right. I've not been told, Shawn, you need to change it. When I'm told that, I do change that. But I want to think that I walk every day at work as professional as possible. I do show some command presence. I'm not going to let anybody see that you can't jam a toothpick at me because I'm so nervous. The time I had that was when I pulled up at Western Select. You couldn't have jammed a toothpick in my rear end. I mean, because I knew I had failed. It's like, and I pulled up on some incidents saying, but you know what? It's a challenge. I love a challenge. So, and I can't say that any of those mentors have taught me, and I always go back to my high school days, which is not the glory days, but what I was taught as an athlete. Because I think this is a team sport. You get an award. To me, it should be a unit commendation because it took you to drive there. It took your backsteppers to stretch hose, and it took you to make a decision. So y'all win. You just happen to be, I got one, and in the right place at the right time. Now there are some heroic people. I've seen some of the best things in my entire life, and would give accolades to those people and wrote them up for what I've seen. That is, to me, the best attaboy is writing someone up to say that was the best thing I've ever seen in my career. And that's really what the mentors have taught me is how to act in my position, how to act as a human. And I'm sure I'm missing somebody, so don't get offended if I don't list your name.
They'll get very offended.
Yeah.
He didn't say my name.
I
throws the
apologize
pen.
ahead of time. Then be more of a position in my life then. No, okay.
So what's something that you've learned through your career, your 33 years?
It'll be 33 in September.
Okay, so you're 32 and 6 months.
Change.
32 and some change. What is something that has stuck out to you that you've learned throughout your entire career that you would love, that you want to pass forward to the next generation of firefighters?
What we're talking about is because I work for an officer that only taught me as much to make him look good. I'm a training geek, and it goes back to the purpose-driven life of it's not about you. When I started my career, it was fire, fire, fire. That's it. I mean, this is all I wanted to do. And my priorities have changed over time. And it's faith, family, fire. But still fire is the focus of what your beliefs are. That's what I want. I want to instill that passion and that drive of he gets it, she gets it. And that's what the interview stuff is about. It's about giving someone the confidence when they mope in the room saying, I've done 15 of these and I'm going to fail. You're the one, the person in the mirror is what's causing you to fail. But you don't know the aspects of politics, nepotism, whose favors are who, how many they're hiring. Do you need to be a medic, on and on and on. You can only control what's in your lane. And my destiny, is like we talked the other night, nobody can tell you can't do this. I'm going to do this. It just may not be with enough money as you had, or I'm not going to be a president of the United States. I'm not going to be, you name it, I'm not going to do that. But what my achievable goals are, and you need to set achievable goals. And all of this is a passion of mine now of doing company officer development. And I can't just say, we're going to kick this can down the road because I only got X amount of years left here. I want to leave it better than what I found it. Now, was it bad in the past? I can't say it was bad. Can it be better? In my opinion, the answer is yes. And that's what I want to try to help do is the same topic you're talking about here is it's very hard for me to talk about leadership. It's about followership, and it's about someone saying that guy is a leader, that I would follow him or her anywhere. And it's going from being recognized as a tested position to being respected like no other. And, the question is going to be, what is going to be on your headstone? How are people going to remember you on your headstone? Because as soon as you die, as soon as you die, there's somebody in line. Mm-hmm. There's somebody that wants your job. Mm-hmm. And the question is, will they do it better? That's up to them. But I would like to think that in my job, with pride, humbly and pridefully saying, there's no one going to do my job better with an attempt that I give. Now, they may be smarter, they may be, you name the skills that they got better than I do, but they're not going to steal my heart towards what I feel about the people on my shift and the profession that we're in, period. And that's what I want to leave, is the love that the people in your circle have for this job. That's what you want a light bulb to come on that young kid to say, he gets it, she gets it. That's what my drive is just the passion of this. How do I become that guy that they migrate to? How do I become that gal who's just phenomenal at what they do, that they want to? Why do people want to come to your shift? Why do people want to go to Station 99? Because so-and-so's there, that's why. Mm-hmm. And they go, well, they're full of themselves. No, the comments are coming because you can't be like that. You can't achieve that. You choose not to be that because you're too lazy to do it. You have that opportunity to be just like that. Those who win say very little. Those who lose say very little. Those who win say nothing at all, right? So if you can walk humble and still preach this message and not say, these are heavy. See how heavy they are. You get you a pair. That's crap. These are only a recognized spot on a fire department. How they look to others is up to you. And that's my goal. My goal is, what can I do to help get you to wherever you want to go? And I should not hold you back. If you want to be the chief of XYZ fire department and I'll work for you. But I'm going to work for somebody that I train up. Mm-hmm. I want to work for somebody like me. I don't want to work for somebody that I don't believe in their morals. I don't believe in their drive. I don't believe it. They're not a fireman's chief, any of that. We currently have those, and I'm loyal. I chose my position because of Chief Malone, and I believe in his passion, what he wants to do for our department. I don't want to make him look bad. I don't want to get caught. Every time I see his name on the phone, I'm like, oh shit.
What'd I do?
Hey, just call and say, hey. And I ask his opinion. Mm-hmm. When I get the opportunity, I want to know, am I doing what I'm supposed to do? But I have a boss that reports to him too, so I don't want to. Mm-hmm. I will not do that without the permission of my boss.
Right.
So with you starting, we'll kind of step away from the fire side right now. Let's talk about your hobby that you do, the Double Barrel Woodworx. So what was your idea? What was your reason of wanting to start something like that, the woodwork?
It's easier than pouring concrete. Well, we mowed, putting our kids through college, we mowed, X amount of yards, and it got monotonous. Again, it's a servant business. Mm-hmm. We seem to, even in this double barrel stuff, it's servant business, which means I want to make something that people like. I want to make something that people will appreciate, but I want to put the love in there. And I give a lot of gifts. It's an expensive hobby, but I want to turn it into a side business too. We got started tearing down barns, and I want to obtain some tin and some siding to line on a barn house possibly in the future. And I had to make a couple of frames for some pictures that I had. I wanted to use barnwood because I like that old school, that rustic look, and it was hard to work with. And I actually made a mistake. I had some wood laying around, and I had some old yellow pine, and I dropped a grinder on it and it took the pulp out of the wood, and I kind of liked the way it looked, rustic. So I just started making them. I started making them that way, and it has evolved into what I do currently. I inherited some wood equipment, and we're getting ready to actually do a show to sell some of my stuff in Grand Park in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd in April.
Really?
So
That's actually pretty cool.
I want to cater to, again, of my likes. I want to surround, which is hillbilly stuff, hunting, deer hunting stuff, bird pictures, rustic frames, and the fire department aspect. I like these helmets that I make and these actions.
Yeah, the helmet's hanging up in the back. It actually looks really awesome.
They can be personalized. I like that somebody is appreciative of just the gift itself, and it looks cool as hell too.
Oh, it does. I mean, honestly, these
It's a one of a kind.
You brought some of these flags in. I want to show these off. So, these are some of the flags that you make. Oh, here we go. Ooh, these are some of the flags you make, and these are just incredible looking. Like they're just
Some
wild.
people may say that that's not woodworking, but there is some skill that goes to it. It's a
That's
CNC
definitely
machine.
woodworking.
Yeah.
You have to.
Oh,
You have
it's
to
still
put some work
insane.
into it. There's a lot of.
Are you cool if I
handwork
show that
goes.
off?
Go right ahead.
Okay. That's the same.
You can show anything you want.
Yeah, this one looks really cool too. I don't know, like this one. I have no ambition but one, and that is to be a firefighter. Ooh.
Edward Croker,
Wow, that is very cool. Then the
City of New York.
that is,
And some people may be offended by the tattered flag look, but to me, it's just like the loyalty that I saw in the movie. It's like the loyalty we spoke about. It's okay to fight for something that's been tattered,
Yep.
which is your career and your, for 32 years I've tried to have a good reputation. It takes 15 seconds to ruin that. And it's the same on here. I want to be able to fight for something symbolically, which is a burnt flag. That's who we are. We're American people, and we throw the fire service or our logo in here, and it just looks cool.
yeah. And speaking of cool, your logo looks like badass.
badass.
Like you got a really cool logo. Like Double Barrel Woodworx.
Chief, where can people
where can
get
they
in
buy
contact
stuff?
with you to get some stuff done?
I'm not a computer geek, but we have a Facebook page that's Double Barrel Woodworks.
And we'll share that
Yeah.
link
Yeah, we'll
for
definitely
you.
share. It's not on MySpace, is it?
No,
MySpace. It's on my LinkedIn.
I actually used that in that. I just got rid of that in that interview class. That's dating myself.
Oh,
The
good
MySpace
night.
stuff.
That's awesome.
No,
Yeah.
just Facebook only.
That's awesome.
Currently, so I don't have a website.
It looks
It's
great.
in the work. Thanks.
Those look fantastic. They're beautiful.
Anything,
I really
one-offs. Again, our business is more. My business is more mental than physical. That to me, this is a way to decompress. I get out, get to make what I want, get to design what I want, and it's kind of I don't say it's brainless, but it is more brainless than. There's no people involved other than pleasing me to please you, and that's what I do.
Well,
And we like it rough. I mean, that's my motto. Is we like it rough. So don't expect some fine. I can do some fine stuff. I've done some for some special friends, but I like the rough, rustic look because I'm a hillbilly.
I love it too. It's just fantastic. You said when you're doing it, you said it's kind of a brainless effort, but it's just kind of like. Would you say it's more like of a therapy for you?
It is therapy. The therapy is the thought is again. It's just like what we're talking about in the fire shift. If you have an idea, if you have a thought or a path that you want your crew to work towards, we do that every third day. When I do the woodworking, I kind of come up with an idea, and I'm going to achieve it. And if it's not like I pitch it, and it's an expensive hobby, and I get more wood, and I build it to my satisfaction. When I design your guys' stuff, that's not the first time right out of the gate. So I burned a lot of those until it was right. I cannot hand you something that I don't think is right. And they go hand in hand of the quality of the officer you want to be, or the quality of the piece of end result you want to send out the door, because your reputation is your name and my reputation is what I stamp on here. So if I send that out and they say, well, that looks like shit.
Yeah.
Who did that? And they go, and you have an opinion about everything, but when it went out the door, I liked it. That's the thing that we need to work on in our fire business is when you go out the door, do they like it? Or do we need to fix that, pitch it, throw it away, and work some more on getting you where you need to be? So that's kind of the analogy of the two together is, I don't want to send anything out the door. One, if you call and ask for me to make something, I want you to approve it first. I want to make it and you be happy. If you're not happy, in our business, customer's always right. In this business, customer's always right. Mowing, customer's always right. In that servant business, the customer wins. Who's the customer here? In doing this, when I say it's brainless, I'm the customer because I decompress, and there is deadlines, but they're not. If I say it's going to be a couple weeks on that, I don't really want another job. You know, I work 3 or 4 or 5 jobs now, but I want to enjoy. If you're not enjoying it, go somewhere else. You're ruining everybody else's aura around you.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, I think it's a great place to end right there. You said you got some more woodworking to do today, so I really don't want to keep you for that because I really don't want you to beat my ass. So
just get out of prison.
Just get out of prison.
I appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
I've watched the podcast you've done so far. I know you had great people on, and it's an absolute great thing what you're doing. And I'm not going to tell you anything in public that I wouldn't tell you in person. You need to keep doing what you're doing because it's spreading your message, and your message is what the young people that you want to mentor. This is where they need to start.
Well, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
We really do. It's an honor to have you.
Just a hillbilly. Hillbilly that cares.
Well,
put it that way.
You got a cool hillbilly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I really appreciate you guys letting me come on and share some information that I have failed at, that hopefully you cannot fail at. So,
well, again, thank you so much for coming on and spending the time here with us. It's almost been about 2 hours. And,
pleasure.
And we hope to have you another time at some point in the future. We'd love to have you on, and hopefully we get to see you and hang out with you a little bit more.
Hopefully I'll bring some more stuff for you.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have you on
Check
next
him
week.
out, too.
So, guys, we'll go ahead and put all the links and stuff, especially for his Facebook page for the Double Barrel Woodworks. We'll put that in the bottom of the subscription or the description. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. We really hope that you guys learned a ton, and just pick really whatever you like, whatever you don't like, keep it to yourself. But also, if you guys have found that some of the things that he said that have really impacted you, please let us know, whether it's on Facebook or it's in the comments down below. We would really love to hear it and just pass that forward. So thank you guys so much, and just stay safe, and God bless you.